Is there a place on Earth with no laws? Today we will go to 5 places on Earth where the law does not exist. Number 5. Slab City. A city just a stone's throw away from civilization, yet a world away in terms of lifestyle. Situated a mere 100 miles east of San Diego, Slab City is a unique, alternative living community in California, where the sun beats down, the concrete slabs outnumber the trees, and the rules are as flexible as a yoga instructor. So, how did Slab City come to be? Well, picture this. Once upon a time, there was a military base called Camp Dunlap. But in the 1950s, when it was decommissioned, the soldiers left, the buildings were dismantled, but the concrete slabs, they decided to stick around. And just like that, Slab City was born. Now, what makes Slab City so unique is not just its history, but also its location. Tucked away in the Sonoran Desert of California, it's about as remote as a desert island. Seriously, if you're looking for running water, electricity, or even a trash pickup, you're out of luck. But here's where things get really interesting. While Slab City technically belongs to the state of California, the state is kind of like that absent-minded landlord who forgets to collect the rent. There's a lack of governmental interference here that's almost as impressive as the lack of trees. So, what do the residents of Slab City do? Well, they do what any self-respecting community would do. They make their own rules. It's like a real-life episode of Survivor, but with fewer tribal councils and more community potlucks. And that's what makes Slab City so special. It's a place where people from all walks of life come together to live off the grid, under the desert sun, and make their own way in the world. Number 4. International waters. Welcome to the high seas, where the water's deep, the waves are high, and the rules, well, let's just say they're as slippery as an eel. So, what exactly are international waters? Well, think of them as the ultimate no-man's land of the ocean. Any water at least 12 nautical miles from a coastline is fair game. It's like the Wild West of the sea, where anything goes and the only law is the law of the waves. But here's where it gets interesting. While nobody technically owns the high seas, they're not exactly lawless. You see, every ship out there is like its own floating country, flying the flag of its homeland. So, if you're sailing on an American ship, you better believe American law applies. But wait, there's more. Over the years, countries have gotten together and signed all sorts of treaties and agreements to try and bring some order to the chaos. I'm talking about stuff like the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which lays down the law when it comes to everything from fishing rights to protecting the environment. But, of course, where there's water, there's bound to be trouble. You've got countries squabbling over who owns what, disputes over fishing rights, and even the occasional pirate trying to plunder and pillage. It's like a real-life game of Battleship, but with a whole lot more at stake. Number 3. Antarctica. Welcome to the frosty wonderland of Antarctica, where the penguins roam free and the laws, well, let's just say they're as elusive as a snowflake in a blizzard. So, here's the deal with Antarctica. Nobody really owns it. It's like that cool jacket everyone wants to claim, but nobody can agree on who it belongs to. Sure, Australia and Argentina have tried to stake their claim, but Antarctica just shrugged and said, "Nah, I'm good." Instead, since 1959, Antarctica has been under the watchful eye of the Antarctic Treaty System. Picture this. A bunch of countries sitting around a table, sipping hot cocoa, and agreeing to share custody of the world's iciest continent. Now, you might be thinking, but what about the rules? Yes, the rules. The Antarctic Treaty System has some, but they're more like guidelines, really. No military stuff, no mining, and definitely no dumping of nuclear waste. Oh, and everyone has to play nice and use Antarctica for science stuff only. But here's where it gets interesting. While there are rules, enforcing them is a whole different story. I mean, who's going to come all the way down here to make sure you're not sneaking into some secret military base or dumping your trash where you shouldn't? It's like the ultimate game of hide and seek, but with a whole lot more icebergs. Number 2. Western Territory of Afghanistan, also known as ungoverned Afghanistan, where the mountains are high, the valleys are deep, and the rules, well, let's just say they're about as consistent as the weather. Now, when you think of Afghanistan, you might picture bustling cities like Kabul or Kandahar. But venture beyond those urban centers, and you'll find a whole different world. Out here, it's like time stands still, and the government's reach is about as far as a toddler's arm. You see, beyond the major cities, Afghanistan is a land controlled by warlords and militant groups. These guys are like the kings of their own little fiefdoms, ruling with an iron fist and a Kalashnikov. And as for the government, well, let's just say they're about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. So, what do the people of rural Afghanistan do? They do what they've always done. They make their own rules. It's like a real-life game of cowboys and Taliban, where the only law is the law of the gun. But here's where it gets really interesting. While there are rules, enforcing them is a whole different story. I mean, when you've got warlords and militants calling the shots, who's going to step in and play sheriff? It's like trying to herd cats in a sandstorm. And speaking of militants, you've got the Taliban and the Islamic State running around, causing trouble and making life miserable for everyone. It's like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole, but with RPGs instead of mallets. Number 1. Western Sahara. Welcome to the wild and lawless land of Western Sahara, where the rules are as scarce as the rainfall. Western Sahara is like that one neighbor everyone avoids at the block party. Vast, desolate, and with no official government to keep things in check. Located on the west coast of Africa, sandwiched between Morocco and Mauritania, it's basically the no-man's land of the Sahara Desert. Imagine a place where 2 people per square mile is considered a crowd, and the dominant feature on the landscape is sand, sand, and more sand. Geographically, it's like nature's way of saying, yeah, I'm just gonna take a break here. But wait, it gets even juicier. Multiple countries have been playing a game of ownership hot potato with Western Sahara for ages. Morocco claims, it's mine, while a group calling itself the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic insists, nope, it's ours. To make things even more interesting, other countries are sitting on the sidelines, munching popcorn, and saying, we'll just watch and see how this plays out. So, here we are with a massive piece of earth that technically belongs to no one, and nobody's quite sure what to do about it. Legally speaking, it's like the Wild West, but without the cowboys and with a whole lot more sand. People here are living in a perpetually legal gray area where the only rule is that there are no rules. As our journey through these lawless lands comes to an end, we hope you've enjoyed exploring the wild and untamed corners of our world. Let us know in the comment below if you have encountered another lawless place on Earth.